Today's lesson is about fungi and plants. So we're making our way through the 6 different kingdoms, and we'll discuss all 6 of them by tomorrow. The objective of today's lesson is to identify structural and reproductive adaptations present in fungi and plants, and the essential question that we seek to answer: how are fungi different than plants? Today's date is December 8th, and it is the 3rd day of our 10th unit. Okay. We'll come back and do that later. So the first kingdom that we will discuss today is the fungi kingdom. Fungi are pretty interesting organisms because in many ways they are pretty similar to animals. They are eukaryotic, they are heterotrophic, and they are multicellular. What does it mean for something to be eukaryotic? What are some characteristics of eukaryotic organisms?
A nucleus.
Excellent. Yes, they have a nucleus. Anything else?
Can make its own food. Not really make its own food, but like, I don't know how to say it.
Okay. So some eukaryotic organisms make their own food, but not fungi. So what Joseph is talking about, organisms that make their own food are called autotrophs, but fungi are heterotrophs, which means that they do not make their own food. They have to get their food from other sources. All right, so that's what heterotroph means, to get your food from a different source. And then multicellular, of course, means exactly what it sounds like. Fungi are made up of many different cells. So there are really 2 important structural adaptations that we think about when we think about fungi. What's up, Isaiah? The first structural adaptation that we have to mention is that cell walls are made up of chitin. Chitin is a polysaccharide that makes them stronger. We also have to discuss the fact that fungi have specific digestive enzymes that allow them to break down substrates to better absorb nutrients from the environment. So this is why fungi are such good decomposers. They have those enzymes that allow them to break down substrates. Can someone remind the class for us, what do enzymes typically end in? What letters do enzymes typically end in? What enzymes do, I'm sorry, what? Go ahead, Joseph.
OSE.
Not OSE, but
ASE.
ASE, good, yeah. So sugars are actually, sugars mostly end in OSE, but enzymes end in ASE, and I see Alyssa sent that to the chat as well, so thank you. So when we see something ending in ASE, we should know that it's an enzyme. And if it's an enzyme, then which of our 4 biological compounds must it be? Is it a carbohydrate? Is it a lipid? Is it a nucleic acid? Or is it a protein?
Lipid.
Joseph says lipid. Anybody else? What are enzymes? Which of the four? Do you agree with Joseph, or is it something else? Alyssa says proteins. Can someone come in and be the tiebreaker? It is indeed a protein. Thank you for correctly changing your mind, Joseph. Good. All right, so that was just a little bit of review from Unit 1. The reproductive adaptation for a fungi is that they can reproduce both asexually and sexually. And they reproduce sexually via the dispersal or the release of spores, which is what we're going to watch in this video.
The evolutionist concept has been disseminated by different branches of human knowledge, just as mushroom spores are spread on a cool breeze. Each new season, countless spores are released into the autumn air by the mushroom kingdom. Over the period of a few days, each organism tries to reproduce to the best of its ability. The primitive strategy used by these beings consists of creating many countless possibilities for survival. Each of these reproductive cells will find its own fortune. The wind will blow them in similar directions, but no two will alight on the exact same spot. The unique genetic code written on the chromosomes of each cannot be repeated. They may be quite similar or nearly identical, but some will triumph, and others, the vast majority, will not. Some will be breathed in by an animal, others will fall into the water, and almost none of the rest of them will find an appropriate place to land, and therefore will not survive. But with luck, one of these spores, perhaps just fractionally rounder, or more aerodynamic than the others, will be able to fly higher on the air turbulence created by insects, or will be more capable of holding up thanks to this year's lower humidity levels. And when it lands in the perfect place with the ideal adaptations, it will grow and prosper there where its siblings couldn't. At last, when it reaches the moment of reproduction, its own spores will incorporate those variations in its chromosomes that helped it find success, and its improved design will have a tendency to perpetuate itself in this environment. This is the essence of the changing life that Darwin understood and interpreted for humanity.
Okay, interesting video there. Now, the plant kingdom is different because, as Joseph pointed out at the beginning of the class, there are some organisms that produce their own food, and we call those organisms autotrophs. Plants are autotrophs. So they produce their own nutrition. What process allows plants to produce their own food or their own nutrition? What's that process called? What's the process that allows plants to produce their own nutrition? Thought someone was getting ready to say something.
I was gonna say photosynthesis.
Correct, Brian. And Nick says that as well. Both of you are correct. So photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process that uses light, which is why we have the root word photo, to make, which is why we have the root word synthesis, food. It uses light to make food. And that's what autotrophs do. They do photosynthesis. Now, we can subdivide this plant kingdom into vascular plants and non-vascular plants. Non-vascular plants have slightly different adaptations than vascular plants, which is why we divide them. Non-vascular plants do not have specialized vascular tissue, nor do they have seeds because they use spores to reproduce. Non-vascular plants do not have roots, so they must be low to the ground in order to absorb water. Non-vascular plants use the process of osmosis to absorb and excrete water, and the process of diffusion to absorb and excrete nutrients. Two examples include mosses and liverworts. See mosses on the left. I'm not quite sure that I know what a liverwort is, but here's a picture of one or several, who knows? Vascular plants have specialized tissues called xylem and phloem that allow them to transport materials and grow. So this xylem is a really, really small, it's like a blood vessel. It's a plant's version of a blood vessel. Of course, there's no blood inside of it, but what you would find inside of it is water and various minerals. And these are really, really microscopically small, okay? And so because they are so thin, the properties, the chemical and physical properties of water allow it to just move all the way from the roots to the leaves. So this is why plants have roots, to be able to absorb water and minerals and to transport those water and minerals up into their leaves or into the fruits where, you know, water and minerals are needed for photosynthesis. And then as glucose is produced as a result of photosynthesis in the leaves of the plant, we've got another type of tissue called a phloem vessel that's going to carry that glucose back down to the roots, where they can use it to make energy. So this is a quite remarkable process. These vascular plants are also able to reproduce both sexually and asexually. We can even further subdivide vascular plants into angiosperms and gymnosperms based on really the type of seeds that they have. Angiosperms have seeds that are protected by a fruit or a flower. So typically when you bite into a fruit, inside you'll find some seeds, and most of the time you don't want to eat those seeds. Not because they're dangerous, some of them can be dangerous, but really because they just don't taste good. The fruit itself tastes good because it has all these different sugars and vitamins in it And those sugars and vitamins are there to protect and to house this seed. If we were to compare this to a mammal, the seed would be like the egg of the mammal that would be produced by female mammals. The fruit is like the female mammal's ovary, which stores and protects the seeds until they're ready to be fertilized. And then pollen would be like the sperm. Okay, so angiosperms are vascular plants that protect their seeds with fruits and or flowers.
While most people know that mistletoe is a great way to get a kiss at Christmas, few realize that it's actually a parasite. There are about 90 species of mistletoe in Australia alone, and they all send out roots that penetrate the bark of trees and siphon off water and nutrients. The question is, how did they get up to these aerial gardens in the first place? The mistletoe bird. It specializes in popping open the parasite's ripe berries and swallowing the sticky contents. Thanks to the bird's modified digestive system, it only takes half an hour for the mistletoe seed to pass undamaged from beak to bottom. And that's when the bird starts gardening. Simply by wiping its bottom, the mistletoe bird manages to plant the sticky Klingon in the perfect position to form a new aerial garden. The mistletoe's developing root quickly penetrates the branch of its host and starts siphoning off all the nutrients it needs.
All right, so that's an interestingly gross process, but pretty remarkable as well. The other type of vascular plant is a gymnosperm. Gymnosperms have seeds that are exposed, and they are shaped in order to be dispersed by the wind. So this is how they spread their seeds, essentially. They rely on the wind to carry them. But this also means that their seeds have to be pretty durable so that they can survive the transport process. All right, so we can see some clear differences here. But my question is, which one of these do you think is best suited or best adapted to withstand a fire? Which one of them is more likely to be able to withstand a fire?
An apple.
Okay, interesting. Apparently you've never lit an apple on fire. Most fruits are pretty flammable though. Most fruits will burn pretty easily. So in reality, the gymnosperm seeds are much better suited to withstand a fire. They've got this kind of like hard exterior It's not so easy to inflame. And so the reason that this adaptation is natural, the reason why this adaptation exists and why it's beneficial is because gymnosperms exist typically in places where forest fires are more common. So they need to have seeds that are durable. So that even if the plant itself burns down, there are still seeds there to repopulate the area. Okay, so that's a pretty cool feature. It's pretty thoughtful. It means that if the plant itself dies, the seed is still going to be there and can still, become a tree to repopulate the area that burned down. So in Unit 4, we talked a lot about cellular transport. And we're going to review that a little bit right now, just as further preparation for the EOC, and again, further preparation for the Unit 10 optional test that will take place on Friday. But we talked about the fact that the cell membrane has some pretty cool properties that allows it to allow certain things in and certain things out. Number one, this cell membrane is a phospholipid bilayer. That means that it's made up of 2 layers of lipids. There we see yet another one of our 4 biological compounds. We see lipids right there. We also know that the cell membrane is flexible and fluid, which means that it can flow and move and change shapes as is necessary. The cell membrane is a mosaic because it has a lot of different substances embedded inside of it. So you might find some cholesterol, you might find some proteins, you might find some carbohydrates. So all those different substances embedded in it make it pretty unique, and they give the cell membrane some different properties. And then lastly, the cell membrane is selectively permeable, which means that it only lets certain things in and it only lets certain things out. So I'm going to move past this because hopefully you all wrote this down several months ago. This was even before the midterm. We talked about the fact that there are, in general, 2 types of transport. There's passive transport, which allows molecules to move with the concentration gradient. So from a high concentration to a low concentration. Energy is not required to do that. It would be like rolling down a hill. Energy is not required to roll down a hill. Examples of this would be diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and osmosis, which is the movement of water across a membrane. So passive transport does not require energy, but active transport does indeed require energy. Active transport would be like running up a hill. You're moving from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration. So we need energy to do that. We need energy to pump molecules against their concentration gradient, from low concentration to high concentration. And the energy that we're talking about is, of course, called ATP. At this point, the ATP has come up in several places throughout our course, but it is cellular energy, okay? The way we like to remember this is with the 3 A's. Active transport requires ATP, which is cellular energy, to move things against their gradient from a low concentration to a high concentration. Active, ATP, against. We're not going to do this review right now because I want to talk about something else with you all. So, per usual, we have an exit ticket. It's the Unit 10 Day 3 exit ticket. We also have an asynchronous assignment. This is the last assignment of the semester, so you all can Give yourselves a round of applause. This is the last assignment that I'm giving you, the last required assignment that I'm giving you. So go ahead and knock that out. And while you all are working, I'm going to meet with as many of you as possible in a separate Google Meet to discuss where you currently stand and how you can improve your standing over the next 10 days. All right, so I'm going to call on one of you individually. I'm going to ask you to meet me in a separate chat.
Can I go first?
Sure, Michelle, you certainly can. Give me 1 second. So Michelle, please join this Google Meet that I just sent to the chat, and we will talk there. Hello. How are you? Why'd you start right?
Mr. Red.
Hold on, Michelle. Yes,
Uh,
Brian.
do you want to unmute your mic so we don't hear her stuff?
Yes, thank you. I was just going to do that. I appreciate you. Brandon,
I
are
didn't
you
mean to
here?
jump on you like that.
No, you're fine. Brandon, are you here? Can you move to the other chat to talk with me? Brandon, are you here? Can you move to the other chat to talk with me?
Did you call my name?
Yes. Are you here? Can we go to the other chat, the other Google Meet to talk?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, thank you. Brian Shipes, Mr. Shipes, can you join me in the other call? Brian Shipes, can you join me in the other call?
Could I actually do mine another day?
You can, but I want to give you as much time as possible to reflect on what we want to talk about.
It's fine. I'll take my other day.
Okay. Let's see. Who else do I want to talk to? Is DJ on this call? Nope. Ayana. Can you join me in the other call, Ayana? Ayana, are you available to join me in the other call? No, okay. Chelsea, can you join me in the other call?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Kyrie, are you here? Can you join me at the other Google Meet? Kyrie? Joseph, what about you? Can you join me in the other Google Meet?
I'll go.
Who is that?
Sean.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Sean.
Oh, okay. Come on, Sean.
Where to link it?
I sent it to the chat earlier. I'll send it again. Let me see. Jobert, can you join me in the other call, Jobert? Jobert, are you able to join me in the other call? Okay. Is Nevaeh here? Nevaeh, can you join me in the other call?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, folks, it is 1:20, so I know I didn't get to nearly everybody. If you would, is there anybody who really wants to talk to me right now? I have time, so it's just a matter of, I don't want you all to be late for your fourth block. Aaron, Ayana, Brian, DeMarco, Kyrie. Brian Castellan. Oh, he left. No, do you want to talk to me, Brian?
No, tomorrow I think.
Okay, tomorrow is fine. All right, I will stop recording then.